Welcome to Building Fortunes Radio. Make sure you check us out at buildingfortunesradio.com. Along with KISK, our Keep It Simple Circle marketing partners, we are here to help our Humongous AM and Humongous FM radio customers build their businesses and make the world a better place. At Building Fortunes Radio, we know how much your business means to you and the people important to you. So join us to make the world a better place. Spread the word, tell a friend, and go make a difference in your world. Now on to our show with your host, Peter Mingils. Take it away, Peter.
Hello, everyone. Peter Mingils here. You are listening to us on the Patrick Seaton Innovative Management Tools radio show. We do this radio show every Thursday, 11 p.m.-ish, if you will, Eastern. I think we're at 9 p.m. where Patrick is over in Mexico, and I am here in Florida, and we have a special radio show. We might get an interruption. We had an interruption before the radio show, which I'll explain in a second. We might have an interruption during the radio show. One was not anticipated. One will be certainly welcome, and I'll explain what that means in just a second. But Patrick and I have been doing this radio show as a result of, I always like to tell the beginning, I did some speed networking with a gentleman named Manny Lopez. Manny's a really cool guy, and he had this idea that let's put entrepreneurs together, and the speed networking event that I had with Patrick was really good, and I said, I should really call Patrick back. We talk about a couple of different things. I like what he said. And as a result of that, I said, maybe we can do some radio shows on this because your message is really good. I like the things that you say. I know that a lot of the things that he says I agree with completely and have found to be true in business practices, although because we grew up in different worlds, he might use a slightly different label to represent something that I might have a different label with. So it's like, I call it this, you call it that. I like that stuff. And he's kind of got some really cool tools. He made his business consulting into a digital platform. That's why it's Innovative Management Tools. And you can find him on LinkedIn if you go to Patrick Seaton. He's written a couple of cool books with cool titles, something about crocodiles and elephants and rugs and brains and stuff like that. So he's a super-duper smart guy, but with a flair for just kind of having a little bit of fun with it as well. And when we do these radio shows, we pop them up on Building Fortunes Radio. And to make it easy for you guys to find them, if you go to buildingfortunesradio.com/IMT, you'll be able to hear them, and then or look for Patrick Seaton. If you just do a search, and you'll be able to hear any or all of these things. And as I was playfully saying, before the radio show got started, we almost had an North American call. Donna Baker was supposed to join us, and she was on. And then all of a sudden, Patrick and I heard some kind of a warning or sirens in the background. I'm like, is that you, Patrick? Is that me, Patrick? Has somebody got like an alarm? It's radio show time going on. And Donna said, and I quote, "That's a tornado. Goodbye." I think that was it. I think that was it. And I think we both said, "Excuse me?" or what? She said, "That's a tornado. Goodbye." And then she hung up. So that was unanticipated. And I guess she takes his hurricane warning things, not hurricane, tornado things warning seriously. So hopefully everything's going to be okay with Donna. And I suspect if it was just a warning, she'll be back. And that's why I say the positive interruption during the radio show. So we'll see. But Patrick, that was kind of exciting. We've done many things on this radio show, and that's a first for the Innovative Management Tools.
Well, that certainly is. And I think being the North American, we could have had a really wild thing if she had tornado, you had hurricane, and I had earthquake.
Yeah.
At the same time, that would really be something.
That would be fitting.
Yeah. And I'd still be sitting here. You'd be buckling down the hatches and buttoning down the hatches, and she'd be running into their basement. So
she's going to wind up in Canvas.
Everyone would do something different.
Yep. She's going to wind up for Canvas for those people that understand the reference.
That's right. That's right. Well, no, it's good to be here as always, and we'll see if Donna comes back. If not, then we'll see if she's available for next week, because it's always fun to have her back and on the show giving her opinions, because we found that she and I, we always seem to have the same goal, but just from our background, we come at it from different ways. So it's always a good discussion about around the topic. But so I will fly it solo and have you as my co-pilot tonight, Mr. Peter.
Sounds good.
And tonight I wanted to talk about a topic that is titled "The Change Everyone Agreed to, Oh, and Nobody Did." And it falls into, when we're looking at change initiatives and conversations about things we need to do, we always have the best intentions and people get excited, and then it comes around to many things that fall through the cracks because no one did it. So there's a difference between having a stated agreement and actual behaviors that people that you can see in people. And so why is it that, or how are the various ways that people agree to change but they don't follow through? And it can be really frustrating for a lot of people, because if someone says yes to me, then I expect it to be, followed through on. And especially if they don't say anything to me. And so it's very frustrating when you get down the path and you find that nothing happened. And there was no communication. So thinking about how or why or what to look for potentially from people when they are in agreement. I came up with a few things that would help people understand maybe the signs to look for. So the first one I came up with is what I'll call the head nod or the bobblehead problem. And that's when your leadership team was sitting in the room, they agreed on the new strategy, everyone nodded and bobbleheaded, They left the meeting, and you hear crickets. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. And why was that? From what I'm thinking about it as a possible way, is that because the agreement and commitment are not the same thing. A head nod in a meeting is really the lowest form of agreement. I just have to look the part. But until it gets far beyond that, and you actually have action plans, and there are action items, and there's follow-up and the actual activity, the real commitment shows up in the behavior and not the body language. And that behavior, when you're thinking about this scenario where the leadership team, much of the behavior is not in the leader itself. It's in the other people. So you got these other altitudes and saying, okay, so you agreed, you nodded your head. What was transmitted to the next person and to the next person and the next person? And did anything turn into behaviors and actions? And that's one of the first things that, it's great to get the head nod, but we have to follow it up with, well, and what is that going to do? So that's the first thing to look for. If you're just getting a bunch of head nods and that's a consistent pattern, then obviously that's not enough when sitting in the room. The second thing, which is a little bit different because it actually goes down, it means it went into some of the other altitudes of the company, is when there are competing priorities. So whatever was heard, yep, head nod, okay, but now there was actual action and behavior changes. So they agreed to something. They agreed to the targets, and maybe the whole project got kicked off. But then what you realize is that the people who are doing that project are stretched and they're on other projects. And that competing priority is not reflected or translated to them. And the leaders are not doing the arm wrestling saying, okay, we've decided the priorities. So that's one of the reasons why things don't happen, because it's not because the priority is wrong. It's not because it's not important. It's not because it's not strategic. It is simply that the people actually doing the work at a certain level, and maybe multiple levels, they're competing against their own time, and they cannot clone themselves, and they cannot split themselves in two, and they cannot stretch themselves anymore. So that is something. So if you see a project that was agreed on that's not getting traction, then it's really important not just to say, well, no one's doing it. Well, maybe they're trying to, but if I have to do three projects that are top priority, depending on or according to each leader who is connected to that project, I can only put 1/3 of my time on it. So I'm not going to get the traction and the movement that could be given to it. And we just need to acknowledge it and say, well, then we're either going to put them in priority order, or we need to find some other resources to put on the project. The third one is really one that, what do I say? It's more concerning, if you will. And I'm, sorry, excuse me. The third one is when you have the silent resistance. So let's go back to number one, the head nod. Just because people head nod doesn't mean they agree. Some people stay quiet in the room because they've learned that disagreeing is punished, or it evidences them out, and it says, hey, and so they don't like that. So they decide to just agree publicly, but they don't get the behaviors and the traction, and so they are, I was going to say undermine privately. Maybe it's not undermine. Maybe it's just there's resistance. Maybe they don't have enough answers. Maybe they don't understand. They don't agree with it because there's not enough information, and no one has provided them with that. And maybe even asking for information is not a welcome behavior in a staff room. So they might be resistant. They might be undermining it. And if they really wanted to change it and thought about it or agreed with it in the meeting, by the time they got back to their desk, maybe they said, maybe it's not such a good idea. So there is a gap between the meeting room and the front line back in the department, because maybe it sounded great in the meeting room, but that time and walking back to my department or stopping and talking to someone about it, maybe I realized that there are a lot more questions, or it's not the best idea. So when I get back to my desk, I'm not going to be jumping all over this with lots of excitement. So that's another reason why people the projects don't get they don't get the traction. And the fourth one is what I labeled the behavior gap. So the real test in change is not in what people say. I mean, what's the old saying? Talk is cheap. Action is expensive. So it's not, the real test is not in what people say, it's what they do when nobody's watching them. Are they using the new process? Are they really embracing the new whatever it is? Are they asking the new questions? Are they making decisions differently? If that behavior hasn't changed, then the change hasn't really happened. And regardless of what the status report says, we explained to everyone and we're moving along, and that layer got all the information. Okay, check. Well, that doesn't mean that it's actually taking place. So I guess the message to the listeners is this. At a certain level, the change or the project or the whatever, the decision was made, and it makes total sense, and at that altitude everybody is on board. But that's not where all the change happens. That's just the announcement. And change doesn't happen through announcement or mandate. It happens through the conversations. And so we need to make sure that at all altitudes those conversations are taking place, and that the people are actually changing their behaviors and their habits. So with what I just said, there could be like 3 ways to think about how to get accountability for the changes that need to happen at the various altitudes. And one is, do the people at the different altitudes know exactly what different behavior looks like? Just saying to them, hey, this is what we're going to do, does not necessarily translate into how their behavior needs to look differently. That's one. Number 2 is there a system for tracking whether that behavior is happening? Because you can say it and you can think it, and people might say yes, it's happening, but is there really a system for being able to check it and track it and get the evidence and proof? And part of that is, what actually would you need to look for? And I guess number 3 is, if it is that important and everybody has said yes and they do say they understand, so that would fall in line with what I say to people. Do you know how to do it? If you don't, I can train you. Can you do it? Are you able to do it? If not, maybe I can give you some support. But if the third question is the most important, do you want to do it? And if you don't want to do it, but it is what the company has decided and the company is paying your paycheck, then we need to have a different conversation. And part of that conversation is, maybe there are consequences, positive for adoption and constructive for resistance. Because without those 3 things, the people know what has to happen, the system is there to check it and help guide them, because the system is not just a police, it is also there to give them feedback on where they're at against the benchmark. And then, are there the consequences, positive and negative or constructive? Without those, very often agreement, the head bobbing, just remains very aspirational, and it's a great idea, it's a shiny object, but it doesn't get into the execution and the and get sticky, if you will. So it's a challenging thing because change is very different at different altitudes of the company, and nobody has. I don't think that anybody has the perfect understanding of all the altitudes from their position or their altitude. Someone who's at 50,000 feet maybe remembers and understands what happens at 35,000 or 40,000 feet. But do they really remember what takes place, and do they know what happens at 1,000 feet? Well, I would even argue that they shouldn't know, because then they're too far in their weeds and they're not doing their job at 50,000 feet. But someone who's at 20 might be able to imagine what 30,000 looks like and remembers what 10,000 is. So we all have our own perspectives and understandings, a little bit up and a little bit down from the altitude we're at. But it takes all those altitudes and all the understanding before we can say we know what is going on and what needs to happen behaviorally across the organization. So, the change that everyone agreed to, it's cool, but did it actually happen? And if we just turn our mind, we see the head bobbing, and then we say, okay, next, but we really don't get it, the chances are that changes and the behaviors are not taking place at the other altitudes. So that's what I want to talk about tonight, Peter. Any thoughts or comments?
I'm here. Sorry, my cell phone dropped off. Oops. Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
I was listening in on two different devices, and one of them fell off, and I'm here. So I heard everything you said. I was just trying to connect over to the right device. So this whole change that everybody agrees to, but nobody did, is a very interesting conversation, and I love the way you framed it. And some of the things I was thinking about while you were talking was, how does this relate to me, my company, different things? I try to relate it back to my experiences as well. And as I'm thinking this through, I'm adding to what you had mentioned as far as, from my experiences, what people go through when you're asking them to do a change. It's easy to say yes, it's harder to do yes. So that's number one. So, and the next part is, a lot of people might have a thought of what they're supposed to do, but just like anything else, as soon as you get started, you realize that, oh my God, I really don't have a clear vision of what has to be done, or have more questions. And then another thought that I had as you were talking was, holy cow, what if companies make changes all the time, and either they don't work out, or they're goofball conversations and they change them within 5 minutes anyway? So I could agree to make a change, but what's the point in doing anything, because it's only going to change on the next memo. So those are some of the thoughts I was thinking as you were talking about the different points that you were referencing.
Well, I'll even put one more that on top of that, and that is at a certain altitude, the change gets announced or talked about, and they think that it's actually now going through the different altitudes, and then they make another decision or change on the assumption that the previous is in place, and it's not. And so they're building on top of it, and eventually that is going to start to crumble, because there's not that system to make sure did the other change really go through it to the full extent. And this is very much aligned to, and I wasn't thinking about talking, hadn't planned to talk about this, but it's very this topic is very aligned to an ebook that I wrote about 15 months ago or so, and it's called the Change OS, and it's looking at the life cycle of change. And it really aligns to this topic quite well, because in that book I break down what are the steps for a change initiative. And a change initiative is something that has a beginning, middle, and end. And the first one, I'll go through the 7 steps quickly because I think that it shows where things can break down. The first part of it is what I call change management, and that is the direction, strategy, and governance for whatever the idea is. So, hey, we're thinking about this. Cool, that's a great idea. That would be great for the company. And that's where you can say, head bobbing, yeah, this makes total sense. And who's going to be in charge? This person. Okay, this is great. But that's not where it starts, because that's not where it stops, because the second piece and step in the flow is what I call change preparation. And so the narrative around that is, we've got this great idea. It makes total sense. But are we prepared as a company, as a department, as a project team to actually pull this off and start it? I mean, do we have enough in place to kick it off and get going on it? Because if we don't, we need to put those pieces in place. And that leads to change enablement. Because change enablement says, great, we've got the idea, we're ready to kick this off. But who would we need in the company to go and work this through the various altitudes? That's change enablement, the people. Get the right people who are going to go and do the work with the other altitudes. After that, you have what's called change activation. And change activation is saying, okay, we know the people, we know the what, we know we're ready to do it, we have the people, but now, how are we going to organize those people? Because change is not just one person running around. It's going to take multiple people. So how are we going to organize them? How are we going to schedule them? How are we going to let people who need support and guidance and the conversations, how can they raise their hand? So it's all the logistics side of it. After that, it goes to change facilitation. And change facilitation is saying, okay, we've got the what, we've got the people, we know how we're going to organize them. Now, change facilitation says, what are the tools that those people are going to need when they go out into the company to talk about the change, to get the things moving, to really impact those behaviors that we talked about. So what are my strategies? What are my checklists? What are my tools? What are my this? What are my that? And are the people trained on it so that they can actually have an impact when they're having the conversations? After you have that in place, then it goes to change traction. And that's where those conversations at the different altitudes with the various people are taking place, because that's where you're really going to get down and into the behaviors. And that's where the bulk of the work happens, because there are many altitudes and facets of altitudes in a company. And then you've done all the work, you've talked, you've had the sessions, you've had whatever it might be. Then you get to the last step, which I call change readiness. And that is, we've done all the work. The schedule says it's time to go. The sponsor says it's time to go. The team might say it's time to go. But maybe we should do one more check at the various altitudes and make sure that everything is really in place and it will sustain itself as it moves along. After saying we're done with this change initiative. Because it's really a shame when a lot of work has been done, and at the sponsor level, at the project level, at the team level, at the everything, and they pull the trigger and say, go, we're ready to go, and we're closing the books on this one. And then they realize that 3 altitudes down, they missed people, and it might fall apart. And all that work and effort and money and resource has just been potentially lost. So if you think about the listener, where are you in that little storyline? If you are at the change of management and you are and you are responsible for the strategy or direction, awesome. But there are 6 other things that need to take place after you've done your thing. And if you are at the very end of that flow, it's no wonder why nothing happens. If no one has come and talked to you and explained it and helped you learn how to change the behaviors, there is no way. So I thought I'd bring that up as a way to it's not about blame. Things not getting done is typically not about blame. So if I go back to the things that I was talking about earlier, you can get the head nod because that's the leadership head nodding. But that doesn't mean that down in the change traction it's taking place. The competing priorities show up in change traction. Yeah, that sounds great, but I can't do it because I'm already on 4 other projects. The silent resistance is down in that change traction because no one came to talk to me. No one explained it. Nobody really took the time, and I don't get this. And I have questions. And the behavior gap is in the change readiness. Have we seen the changes in behaviors because people have adapted, they've adjusted, it's been explained, and now we see the behavior? That's when we can say, you know what, I think we're ready to say this one is done. So, didn't mean to go on a second tangent, but
good. Change OS.
Change OS. And I do, just a very side comment, I have a note from Donna. She says she's okay. There was a tornado a few miles north of her.
Wow.
But they're supposed to keep watch to see if the storm changes direction towards them. And it did scare her because apparently where she's at in Canada, they have not had a tornado for several years. So I can see where that is, something you've kind of forgotten, and all of a sudden, oh my God, there's a tornado. So.
Yes, it's not like crying wolf like they have earthquakes in Mexico and hurricanes in Florida.
That's very true. That's very true. So, all right. So, any other thoughts, Peter, or you think we can move on to the second half?
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
So, for the listeners who don't know, the show is radio, so radio is not radio without songs and music. So we always kick off the second half of the show with the music and a song around a specific topic. And that topic typically is around one of the conversation frameworks that I offer. And tonight I'm going to talk about the conversation framework called Identify, which is identifying waste within a company. So I'll talk more about it on the other side of the song. But Peter, if you want to play the first song and let everyone listen to an original song.
There we go.
We got time to explore. Won't you lay your fears to rest? Let's rebuild and do it right. Optimize and take new flight. Trail it down, trail it down. Cut the waste all around. Trail it down, trail it down. Cut the waste all around.
That was probably one of the most unique songs you've ever had. That was unique.
All right, so let's talk about waste. Now, you're probably saying, why? How does waste connect with the first part of the show? Because the first part we talked about, everyone agreed on it, but things didn't get done. Well, it ties in quite directly with the waste within a company. Because I do a survey, I have a survey that companies take, and it shows 28 different categories, waste being one of them. And under each category, it shows some examples or scenarios. And the people say, yes, we see this, and it exists in our company. Okay. And at the very end of the survey, it says, now of everything that you've said exists, what do you think is the most important thing that the company should pay attention to? And what waste is one of them that falls into a very, very interesting category. And that is, everybody says that there's waste. It's in the 90% of the companies saying we have waste all over. But here's the thing. It doesn't show up in the top 5 ever as the most critical thing. So it's the thing that everyone agrees to. Yes, we have waste. We could be doing this better. But we agree on it, but we're not actually doing anything about it. So what is Identify as a conversation framework? That's what I call the tools. And conversation frameworks are digital tools, collaboration, facilitator-led, small group, problem solving. And in the case of Identify and waste, it is looking at a process for and identifying the different forms of waste that exist based on the process participants, the people who are in the process, from what they see and what they live and experience. Now, many people don't know that there are over a dozen different forms of waste. And this is based on lean manufacturing and lean office and things like that. But these forms of waste add to the bottom line of a company and the time. And there are some experts who say that of any process that we have within the company or department, that up to 70% of that process might be waste and could be eliminated. So what Identify does is it's an activity within 4 hours. The group can come together, map out the process, and they identify where the waste is, come up with action items, and assign actions to the different people. And then they're done, and they go off and they start trying to get rid of the waste because they have their plans and their ideas. And then they can come back at a different time and update the board, and because these are on Miro boards, collaboration boards, and they can come back and update it and see where they've gotten rid of some waste and how has that been, and they can do the assessment. Did it really help? And it's a continuous process improvement. And in essence, I would say that everybody in the company, in their own altitude, says we really should get rid of waste. Different altitudes, different perspectives. At the senior level, they go, we need to get rid of waste because that's wasting our money. We could be using that for something else. Okay, great. At the department leadership, they could say we need to get rid of waste because my people are strapped and I need to be able to produce more, and if I could get rid of the waste, maybe I wouldn't need to hire more people. At the front line, people talk about waste and say, I can't believe that the company is paying me to do this work that really is not giving value. But they're telling me I have to do this, and they won't listen to me. I could improve this. I could do it. They don't value my expertise. They don't find it important, so why should I? I've raised my hand a few times. No one listened to me. Why should I beat the drum anymore if nobody else does? Which is how and why I think it falls into the survey results saying everybody sees it, but nobody's doing anything about it. And so it's not the most critical thing to focus on. And so I find it very, very interesting as a topic because it's the elephant that everybody sees but nobody wants to deal with. That elephant is standing in the corner of the room or is sitting on people's laps, or maybe somebody has just swept that elephant underneath the rug saying somebody else will take care of it. It's not my problem, not really big enough of a concern for me. Well, the elephant's not going to go away. And so waste is something that companies seem to either have, they're on waste like a dog on a bone, or they talk about it and talk is cheap, and they don't do anything about it. There doesn't seem to be a lot of middle ground, a lot of gray area on a regular basis. And that's unfortunate because it is very easy to take care of and put in the spotlight, but it requires putting it in the spotlight. And to do that, how do you do it? You can't just walk around and say, hey, get rid of waste. Okay, great. What, where, how? Do we have permission? What is it going to take? It takes a lot more intentionality than just saying, go get rid of waste. And most people don't understand the various forms of waste to be able to identify it, because that's what they've been doing for so long. That's what they were taught. That's what's just part of how we operate around here. So it's not waste in their eyes. It's just the way we work in some cases. So if anybody is interested in learning about identify, and the idea is how to identify the waste within processes. If you're interested in learning about identify, if you are interested in learning about the survey, which is called Diagnose, and for Diagnose, any company, I will let 10 people take the survey and give you a report for free so that you can start to see what are those elephants underneath your rugs. And if someone would like to talk about conversation frameworks, please reach out to me. And if you'd like to learn more about the whole concept of elephants under the rug, I have just finished writing a 400-page book on the whole topic. So, lots of resources for those who are curious and interested in learning more. So any thoughts on that, Peter?
No, I love this stuff. So,
Okay.
I've heard you talk about some of these custom frameworks before, and I think they're the best deal you got. And the book, and I know you have other things as well, Change OS, and the Elephant book, and the one you did with the crocodile brain, and you also have AskAlex.coach for the AI stuff as well. So if people are looking for business building tools, business management tools, all the other ways you identified them, people should definitely take a look at what you do. You're on top of it.
Any and all conversations. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Peter. And so we can finish out with the second song, and that is, again, about waste and identifying and the conversation framework, but we'll finish that off, and we'll listen to it, and then we'll finish off the show.
There we go.
Old system paved the way, let us work today, you're slowing us down, down. Go, always step aside, we need clear skies in this office town, oh, don't drown. Finding ways, reduce decays, processes to streamline, cut the waste, make it fast, let efficiency shine. High costs drag us down. Look where we can cut now. We're spending too much, too much. New tools guide the path. Let's reduce the aftermath and make work a breeze so lush. Finding ways, reduce decays, processes to streamline. Cut the waste, make it fast, let efficiency shine. Clear out efficiency. We found some new energies and feel the ease now. Slow process in dismay will change the old ways. We'll show you how. Finding ways, reduce decays, processes to streamline. Cut the waste, make it fast, let efficiency shine.
I don't know what kind of mood you were in, but you nailed it on these two songs. That was good. That was really good.
It was I don't know, it must have been like a jazz fusion kind of thing. I was just sitting here and just, bobbing my head and going, yeah. And it, for a split moment, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I kind of got the whole Alice in Wonderland with the, what was it, the one that was smoking the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, this is good.
Yep, good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I digress there. It's getting late here. So, and later for you. So, Peter, thank you for hosting. Thank you, as always. And I will do my best to get Miss Donna Baker back next week.
Yeah.
And so she can charm us and give us her words of wisdom, because it's always something that I enjoy listening to. Let me just look at what the next week. Oh, she will probably like this one. It's all the next week. We're going to move into sales and talk about pricing ourselves when we're pricing our services and products. So I'm sure that she'll have some interesting comments on that if she could join us.
Great insight. Okay, good. Well, for those people listening in, you can check out Patrick Seaton. You can go to The description we have on Building Fortunes Radio has got his contact information in there as well. You can also direct message him on LinkedIn. Patrick is easy to spell, Patrick, and then Seaton is Seaton. And we're going to be back next week on Innovative Management Tools Radio Show on the Building Fortunes Radio Network.
You've been listening to Building Fortunes Radio on buildingfortunesradio.com. Thanks for listening. Building Fortunes Radio is part of the Humongous AM and Humongous FM radio network. Be sure to check out the buildingfortunesradio.com website to listen to your favorite shows. You can also hear us on Humongous Radio and wherever you find your favorite podcasts. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. At Building Fortunes Radio, we wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work for.